Hey guys, it's Emily, and today I am coming at you with my full physical TBR. So today I will be going through all of my unread books. I filmed this video a while back, at least 2 years ago, maybe a year ago. I'm not sure. I filmed this a while back and I thought it was so interesting to look back upon it and just see which books on my physical TBR I had at the moment and which ones I read. For the most part, I had read most of the books that were in that video, so I thought it would be nice for me to do another edition of this, show you guys the books that are on my radar at the moment. I guess I have quite the list. I have well over 70 books this time around, which is twice as much as what I had in the previous video that I did. But I thought it would be a nice way to, I guess, record or just have a record of the books that I have not read and that I'm hoping to read soon. Before we dive into the video, I would love for you guys to leave me in the comment down below the book that you think I should read next, or a book you think I would be interested in, because I'll be honest, right now I'm kind of in a reading slump and I feel like if you guys tell me that some of the books that I have on my TBR would be stuff that I would really enjoy, or if you think I should just read a specific one for a specific reason, I think that would motivate me to have you guys kind of validate my choices. So leave me in the comments below the book that you think I should read next, or some books if there's more than one. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so here we have my sci-fi fantasy shelf. This is probably where I have the most unread books, to be honest. I used to be a huge sci-fi fantasy reader, especially when I first got into YA, but now I don't really read them anymore. I still continue to buy them for some reason. I still enjoy them, I just don't tend to pick them up as often as I would romance or contemporary, for example. So this is probably where we're gonna spend the most time. So let's dive in. First we have Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the sequel to Renegades, which I wasn't a big fan of. I love Marissa Meyer, but I just haven't really gotten into her new series as much as I love the Lunar Chronicles. But with the cliffhanger in the first book, I just thought that I would pick up the sequel. I've heard that the books get better from this point forward, so I'm really hoping that I will enjoy the rest of the series. Up next we have In the Afterlight and Through the Dark by Alexandra Bracken. I read the first 2 books in the trilogy. I really enjoyed it, but I never for some reason picked up the rest of the series, so I need to get to that. Then I have Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I've heard so many great things about this book. I really need to get to that ASAP because everyone seems to love this book and this series as a whole. Now we have Aurora Rising by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I loved the Illuminated Fire series by the same duo, so I thought I would check out their new series. It's also kind of a space-based series. We have a large cast of characters. I'm not too sure what the plot of this one is about, but I thought I would check out their newest releases. The next couple of books are all going to be from my Disney shelf. I don't have a lot of unread ones from that shelf, but the first one is The Little Mermaid and Other Fairy Tales by Hans Christian Andersen. So I've actually started reading this. I read The Little Mermaid and The Little Match Girl, but I never finished the book, so I'm including it here. But this edition is absolutely beautiful, and so I'm really hoping that I can read those soon. I know that this one includes the Snow Queen, which is supposed to be what inspired Frozen. Then I have Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix by Julie C. Dow. This one is the sequel to Forest of a Thousand Lanterns, which I absolutely love, and this is a Snow White retelling. Next I have a bunch of Mulan retellings. So I have The Magnolia Sword by Sherry Thomas, Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, and Reflection, also by Elizabeth Lim. Who knows, maybe I'll use them for a video. Okay, so my next shelf is my YA fantasy series, I guess, and I don't have a lot of books on that shelf that I haven't read, which is good. So first up I have King of Fools by Amanda Foody. I loved the first book in the series, so I really need to continue on. And then I have A Reaper at the Gates by Sabata here. I was waiting until we got the announcement date for the 4th and final book in that series, and now it's coming out in December and I need to read this soon. I don't know if that's going to happen in 2020, but I'm hoping in early 2021. Okay, and the final shelf in that bookcase is my, what I call miscellaneous shelf. It's basically a bunch of series that either have started or maybe I just didn't know where to place them on my shelf. So we have a bunch of different things. First I have Daughter of the Siren Queen by Trisha Levenseller. This is a sequel to Daughter of the Pirate King, which I really liked. Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. No, I have not read this book yet. If you've been here since I've started this channel, you will know that I hauled this in my very first book haul. It's been 3 years. I still haven't read it. Up next I have Enchantée by Gita Trelise. This is like a YA fantasy set in Paris. Tell me no more, I'm excited. Then I have To Best the Boys by Mary Weber. I've heard great things about it. It's supposed to be this game that's set in a maze and our main character is not supposed to enter, but she will enter anyway. Here I have Fury Born by Claire Legrand. This is another one of those books that I've hauled a while back because it had so much hype surrounding it. The hype has kind of died down, and this is such high fantasy that it kind of intimidates me, but I'm really hoping that I will read it eventually because it does sound interesting. It's not something that I'm finding myself leaning towards. Up next I have We Hunt the Flame by Afzal Faisal. I've already started it. As you can tell, there's a little bookmark here. I think I made it like 30 pages or so into it, and it sounded really interesting. I just had to put it down because of like readathons and stuff. The next book is kind of cheating a little bit because I've already read it, but I'll get to that. So it's The Winner's Curse by Mary Rutkowski. So I've already read it, like I said, but I do want to reread it so that I can continue on with the series. So I'm including it here, even though I've read it before, but I know that I want to reread it. Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin, which I have been talking about more frequently on my channel recently, but this is a witchy book that is set in France in the early 1800s, I believe, and this is a hate to love romance. I know it really divides booktube, so I'm quite curious to see what I think about this one. And finally, on this shelf I have Circe by Madeline Miller. This is a retelling of the Greek myth of Circe. Okay, so up next we have my YA fantasy slash romance shelf. This is not everything, but since this is my favorite genre, I have more than one space where I keep them. To be honest, I've read most of the books on these shelves. I have only a couple of books to show you here. You'll see I have another spot where I keep most of my unread YA contemporaries and adult romances. So let's get to the ones on this shelf that I have not read. The first one I have is Let Me Hear a Rhyme by Tiffany D. Jackson. I have heard great things about this one, and I'm looking to read more diverse contemporaries, so this is why I picked this one up. Up next I have Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. This is the companion novel to Prince Charming, and I loved this book. It was one of my favorite YA contemporaries of 2019, so this is why I picked this companion novel up. I'm really excited. This one takes place in Scotland, in the Highlands of Scotland specifically, and I mean, it's royals romance, a sapphic romance. Up next we have Well Played by Jen DeLuca. This is the companion novel to one of my favorite books of 2019, which was Well Met, and I'm excited to read this, especially because it takes place at the Renaissance Fair that we saw in the first book, and I just loved the setting of that one, so I'm excited to dive into this one. This is a recent release, so this is why I haven't read it yet. And then I have two books that I don't even know if they were on that shelf, but they were there because I'm reading them at the moment for specific videos or just for fun. So the first one that I have is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is not a contemporary of any sort, but this is something that I've already started. I'm already like almost done with it, so this is why it was right there. But this is the second Jane Austen novel that I'm reading, and I'm really enjoying it so far. And finally on this shelf we have One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. So this is a book that has kind of taken romance booktube by storm recently. This is about a plus size woman who gets on this bachelorette style TV show, and I've heard great things about it, so I'm really hoping that I will enjoy this one. Now I am bringing you to my nightstand, which is behind me, but it's kind of hard to film here because my bed is right next to me. But this used to be where I kept my most recent acquisition, and this was like my TBR nightstand, but now I have way too many books, so I just cannot keep them all here. So I've turned this into an extension of my previous shelf, which you just saw, and this is also where I'll keep the books that I'm currently in the middle of. So let's talk about the ones that I'm currently reading, or the ones that I've started. So I have If It Makes You Happy by Claire Kahn. This is a YA contemporary, and this one I've just started, so I'm only like 50 pages in. Then in the little drawer we had a couple of books that I started and did not finish apparently. So we have the fourth book in the Trials of Apollo series, which is The Tyrant's Tomb by Rick Riordan. I started it. I think I'm going to complete it during Believeathon. And then I have 80 Days to Elsewhere by Casey Dyer. This is an adult romance. I started it. I really liked it, but I had to put it down because I was filming other videos and stuff. This one I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but we have a main character who's trying to recreate the travels of the main character in Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. And so far I thought that it was very intriguing and very interesting. Our main character works in a bookstore and she talks about Bookstagram, and I just feel like it's the perfect book for book lovers, so I'm very excited to continue reading this one. So I have read none of the books that are in here, which you cannot see, but legit none of these I have read, so I'll try to make this quick because there are quite a few. First I have The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan, another book for book lovers. Then we have The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George, another book that is perfect for book lovers. I guess I hadn't realized how many of those I have. Then I have A Paris All Your Own, edited by Eleanor Brown. It's a collection of short stories written by women who have written novels about Paris or that are set in Paris, and this may or may not be featured in an upcoming Books Around the World episode. Then I have Lunch in Paris, a love story with recipes by Elizabeth Bard. Once again, we can sense a theme here. Then I have One Paris Summer by Denise Grover Swank. I think I've read this before. Like I had an arc, I think a while back. Books Around the World, that's all I'll say. Then I have You Say It's First by Katie Cotugno. This is her most recent release, and I haven't really heard anyone talk about it, so I'm quite curious to see what I'll think about this one, but I tend to really like Katie Cotugno's work, so I'm looking forward to this one. I think it's kind of a long distance situation, maybe kind of a You've Got Mail situation, not too sure. Then I have I Love You So Mochi by Sarah Kuhn. It's set in Japan, cute love story. I'm all in. Up next I have Meant to Be by Lauren Morrill. I believe this is set in London, so very excited. I have 7 Days of You by Cecilia Venice. This is set in Japan once again, and I read this author's other book. I think she's written only 2 books, and I wasn't the biggest fan, but I also didn't hate it. So I'm quite curious to see what I'll think about this one. Up next I have Fence, Striking Distance by Sarah Rees Brennan. I love the Fence graphic novels, so I'm really looking forward to reading this novel. I don't really know if it's like a recap of what happened in the graphic novels or if it goes further than what we have seen in the graphic novels. I'm really hoping that it'll be like a new story, because otherwise I might as just read the graphic novels, but I'm really looking forward to this one. Then I have The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight by Jennifer E. Smith. I really love this author, so I'm looking forward to reading this. Up next I have My So-Called Bollywood Life by Nisha Sharma. I know nothing about this book. Up next I have Felix Ever After by Kason Calendar. This is about a trans boy. It's set in New York. I've heard nothing but great things about this book. It came out this year and it is one of BookTube's favorite books of the year so far. The next book I have is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. I think this is kind of a superstar and normal person kind of romance. I loved Maureen Goo's, what's the title of it? Somewhere Only We Know, and it kind of is a similar premise to this one. This one is taking place in New York, and I loved Mary H.K. Choi's first book. Next up I have The Other Side of Lost by Jessie Kirby. This is like a kind of a mountain slash wildlife YA contemporary, so I'm excited. Love à la Mode by Stephanie Kate Strome. Takes place in Paris. We're following our 2 main characters who are in this baking competition, I believe. Kind of a hate to love romance. I have You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, another one of BookTube's most loved books of 2020 so far. I've heard great things about this. Finally, I have Layover by Amy Endelson and Emily Mayer. I haven't heard a lot about this, but I was doing some research for books around the world, which I'm realizing that a lot of the books that I show you guys are for episodes of books around the world, but that's fine. But I found this and I thought, you know what? I'll try it. I haven't heard of it, but it featured travel, so I thought I would check it out. And the last book that I have is something that is not mine, but a friend lended it to me and I really want to read it. So it's Smoke in the Sun by Renee Audier. I've had it for over a year. It's kind of embarrassing. She lended it to me a while back and I never gave it back. But this is a Mulan inspired story. This is a sequel to Flame in the Mist. Alright, so this is the last section. So basically all of these books that I'm about to show you are in another shelf situation in another room, in a common room, and I didn't want to film over there because my sister is working on stuff currently and I didn't want to disturb her. So I brought them all over here, and this section is pretty much everything else. So I have like Christmas books, middle grade. I'm looking over there because they're all on my bed right now. Mystery thrillers, some adult, pretty much a mix of everything. So let's dive into these books, shall we? First, I have the remainder of the Addicted series and the Calloway Sisters spin-off series by Krista and Becca Ricci. So we have Fuel the Fire, Long Way Down, and Some Kind of Perfect. I am still slowly making my way through this series. These are the last 3 books that I have to read out of the 10 that are in this whole world. Next, I have 2 Cassandra Clare books. So I have Queen of Air and Darkness and The Red Scrolls of Magic, which is co-written with Wesley Shue. I need to continue my reading of the Shadowhunter Chronicles. Is that the name of the series? But the next book that I have to read is Queen of Air and Darkness, and since it is so thick, I'm really intimidated by it, and I haven't heard the best of things about this book, so I'm like, should I just move on and read this one, because this one I'm actually quite interested in. Okay, so the next couple of books are going to be Christmas slash holiday themed. So I have Father Christmas and Me and The Girl Who Saved Christmas by Matt Haig. So this is book 2, book 3 in this little like Christmassy series that he's been writing. It's so cute. I love the first one, so I'm looking forward to reading the rest, and I'm saving them for Christmas, obviously. I also have The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Han. I've heard the best of things about this book, especially from Emma Buck, so I am really looking forward to reading it. And finally, I have The Chaos of Standing Still by Jessica Brody. This is the only book that is not Christmas themed. This one is set around New Year's Eve, and this was recommended by Alien Bookland. I really want to read it. I didn't love the other Jessica Brody book that I read, so it kind of puts me on edge a little bit with this one, but who knows, maybe I'll enjoy it. Now let's dive into some middle grade. Most of these are going to be for Believe-a-thon. I recently purchased them for this purpose. So I have Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is a sequel to Nevermore, which I read earlier this year and really loved. Arusha and the End of Time by Roshni Chokshi, which is in the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, and I haven't read anything from that imprint yet, so I'm really looking forward to this one. Next I have The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. This is the first book in the King Chronicles series, and this is probably the only Rick Riordan series that I have not read yet, so I am looking forward to reading it. I love Egyptian mythology, so I'm looking forward to it, and I believe that Percy and Annabeth make an appearance in this series, so I'm excited. Kidnap on the California Comet by M.G. Leonard and Sam Segman. I read The Highland Falcon Thief earlier this year, actually last month, and I loved it. And then I have The Key to the Kingdom by Jeff Dixon. This is the first book in the Kingdom Keepers series, I think. I bought this for a video. Alright, so now we start some of the miscellaneous stuff. So I have Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, which you guys know I'm trying to make my way through her work. So this is one of the books that I will have to read eventually. Edinburgh Twilight by Carol Lawrence. This is a, I think, historical mystery thriller. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I've talked a lot about it recently, so I won't bore you guys too much with this one, but it's a classic. I need to read it. Haven't done it yet, but we will eventually. Wild at Heart by Kay Tucker. This is a sequel to The Simple Wild, which I really loved, and I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes for our main character because I didn't see the need for a sequel, so this is why I haven't read it yet. I read the first chapter and I'm intrigued, so we'll see where it goes. And then I have One Evening in Paris by Nicolas Barrow. Once again, for a specific video, by the book by Julia Sonborn. I believe this is a Persuasion retelling, so I want to read Persuasion before I read this one. And the last couple of books are middle grade. I guess they weren't with the rest. City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. So I read some of Victoria Schwab's work, and so far I really like her writing and just her books in general. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. It's set in Edinburgh, and it's middle grade with a girl who can see ghosts. The Eye of the North by Sinead O'Hart. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, but I bought this for Believe-a-thon. Gavin recommended it, so obviously I'm excited. A Pinch of Magic by Michelle Harrison. Once again, for Believe-a-thon, but I've heard the best of things about this book. Everyone loves it, so I'm really looking forward to reading it. And finally, I have The Magic in Changing Your Stars by Leah Anderson. This is a very recent acquisition. I actually received it yesterday, so I'm excited. Once again, it's a book that I got for Believe-a-thon. I believe this is set in New York in the 1900s or like 1930s or something like that. It's kind of a Wizard of Oz retelling. That is it for my full physical TBR. I still have some books in the mail. Can you believe that? I have like well over 70 books that I have not read, and yet I still continue to buy them. I will never stop. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it until this point, I feel like this video is super long, but if you've made it until the very end, comment down below a book stack emoji so that I'll know that you have stuck until the end. Once again, make sure to leave me down below the book that you think I should read next or a book that you think I should read soon. And I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. What is that? Okay, so I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to give this a big thumbs up. That really helps out my channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!